Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the road to John Wick Chapter 4, where I'll be covering every John Wick movie in honor of John Wick Chapter 4 coming next weekend. And needless to say,
my body is ready.
I've covered John Wick Chapter 1 and 2 in this series. Playlist link in the eye in the right-hand corner. Go check it out if you are so inclined. But for right now, let's dive into John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. This was released in 2019, and it picks up pretty much exactly where Chapter 2 left off. After assassinating Santino Dan Trolito, John Wick is about to be and is later excommunicado. Basically, he is public enemy number one of the High Table and has to escape. And he eventually gets out of New York City. However, basically, the adage of the rock in the hard place, that's where John Wick is throughout the whole movie, with the High Table coming after him at the hands of the Adjudicator, played by Asia K. Dillon, and an assassin played by Mark DeCostas. In considering how simply the first John Wick movie's story was, in consideration of how simple the first John Wick movie is in terms of its story, I was always concerned how much juice they could squeeze out of this lemon in terms of how far they can go with the High Table. I feel like in Chapter 2 was very much the closing of one chapter, for lack of a better word, and the beginning of another. And Chapter 3 was that next phase of John Wick storytelling told in, well, basically it's John Wick versus everyone, and everyone has an inert disadvantage. There are those who love John Wick Chapter 1 and just wanted the series to not be a series at all and just have stuck in with the one. I respect their opinion, and I do see where they're coming from. There are those who love John Wick Chapter 2. However, my favorite of the series by a country mile is John Wick Chapter 3. This movie is incredible. If I were to make like a top 3 or 4 third movies in a series, I would go Return of the Jedi, Return of the King, The Bourne Ultimatum, and John Wick Chapter 3. This is the longest of the movies up to John Wick Chapter 4 is, at 2 hours and 10 minutes. The movie flies by, and really, Chad Stahelski as director puts his foot on the gas and really does not let up. The storytelling is really efficient here, to the point of it being downright scary. Every moment, every detail has a reason to exist. It's very much split into 3 acts, being this movie. The first act being John trying to get out of New York alive and encountering the dude in the library and using a book, how a book was not meant to be used. Then going to what I assume is the historical armory and taking out the dudes with various knives and an axe. And then you have Act 2, where through the use of another chapter of the Russian mob, he gets to Morocco, where he meets up with Halle Berry's character. They fight off dudes, and then he meets the dude in the desert who accepts John back into the High Table, and then the third act, which is the final battle. With the exception of maybe some parts in that second act, there's not a single dull moment in this movie. Like I said, everything has a purpose, everything moves at the speed of light, but everything you need to know about what is going on is told so well, and the carryover between Chapter 2 and 3 is done near seamlessly. The first 20 minutes of this movie is among some of my favorite opening 20-30 minutes in a movie I've probably ever seen. It is so well done, from where we first see John mid-run to just going through everybody to the point where he runs into the Russian ballet front that's led by Angelica Houston's character. From that point to that point, it does not stop. Everything flows just from where you see every character, Winston, the Bowery King, how they fit into all of this. Everything is just wrapped up in a neat little bow. Keanu Reeves is predictably great. Ian McShane is predictably great. Lawrence Fishburne is predictably great. But then you have new additions like Halle Berry, who, at the time, I believe when I reviewed this, I believe I reviewed this on the channel before, but I believe when I reviewed this, I said that that was the weakest part of the movie. Upon this rewatch, I take it back. This character is actually quite good and kind of damaged in the sense that she hates that when John pulls out the marker and be like, yeah, you owe me. Like that just pained her. Without going into too much detail or into detail without straight up just saying it out loud. Basically, this character has made sacrifices for her child, for her dogs, and just generally, in order to get accepted at the high table, she's pretty much had to lose everything. I think if things had gone another way, John Wick and this person would have been a couple. I know that seems a bit far-fetched, but that's my pipe dream theory, for lack of a better word. Also, her character is awesome just by herself because she calls in dog strikes like it's Call of Duty Black Ops. Thumbs up from me. Asia Kate Dillon is great as the cold and calculating adjudicator, how they hold their gloves in their hand like this and just super pretentious. There's just a very underrated villain in this canon. Not my favorite, that would still be Santino, or the most diabolical, I mean, that would still be Santino, but they're a very close second. And then you got Mark DeCostas, who at first, when I first saw him, I was like, I know I've seen him somewhere before. And it turns out, and when I saw him for the first time, when I saw it back in 2019, my jaw hit the floor. This is the same guy who plays the chairman in Iron Chef America. So the chairman from Iron Chef America is an assassin in the John Wick universe. Forget Chuck Norris. This is the guy who needs to be in all those memes. There's a moral dilemma with John Wick about how he has to make a decision whether to stay on the run from the high table or go back. He chooses to go back because if he's alive, he can remember his wife. That is devastating stuff, to basically be an indentured servant to this power-hungry criminal organization just so he can remember the perfect life that he had for at least 5 minutes. It's sad stuff, but then Ian McShane's character Winston pretty much talks him out of it, and the two pretty much start a mini revolution that I think is going to carry into chapter 4. Also, another subtle plot thread that I don't think gets talked about a lot when discussing this movie is the begrudging respect that many of these assassins have for John Wick. Because even though he is excommunicado, they go out of their way to help them, even at the cost of, well, in the case of Angelica Houston's character, having her hands stabbed through like this, having the Bowery King having his face carved up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Everyone who helps John Wick is now in danger, but they do it anyway, and they don't admit it, but I think they either have a lot of respect for him or they don't want to get on his bad side because he could give the T-1000 the heebie-jeebies. I'm sure that lies in the middle somewhere, but I think it's a very subtle thing that I hope gets revisited in chapter 4. And at the end of the day, you could probably predict my grade for this. It's it's my favorite of the trilogy. I love this trilogy wholeheartedly and equally. However, getting the narrow edge is chapter 3. Chapter 3 is number 1, chapter 1 is number 2, and chapter 2 is number 3. But they're pretty much 1A, 1B, and 1C in my head. But in terms of overall quality, Parabellum is my favorite by just a smidge, but it gets the edge because of how efficient it is despite its runtime. The action is incredible. I've never looked at a horse or a motorcycle since. But what did you all think of John Wick Chapter 3? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. And, well, this is the end of the series. Next week is John Wick Chapter 4. The reviews have been strong, and I am so looking forward to this one. You have no idea. I would happily, if given the choice, skip Shazam! Fury of the Gods altogether just to get to this one sooner. However, Shazam is coming out this weekend, and by the time you see this, hopefully my review of it will be up, if not after this video. But thank you all so much for staying with me on the road to John Wick Chapter 4. If you did like the video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.